Hi, I'm Maggie,
Hi, I'm Grace, and this is
a very bookish podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to a very bookish podcast. Today's episode is episode 33, and we're going to be talking about the book People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. We literally decided this last week to read this book. We both sped through this so fast. Grace, I think this is the fastest you've ever read a book this summer.
this summer, it's definitely the fastest. And matter of fact, I started reading this book 24 hours ago.
Like I don't remember the last time you finished a book so fast.
Yeah, I think the last time I finished a book this fast was Get a Life, Chloe Brown.
I think it's you really love contemporary romance.
And that's crazy to me because before I was like, contemporary romance, not me. And I think the first contemporary romance that I picked up, which was this year, was I want to say it was the Deal by Elle Kennedy.
Yeah,
What?
I don't know. That's not a really contemporary romance though.
It's like it's sports contemporary romance.
Yes, but it's more of like a smuttier romance because
That's true.
it's a smutty romance versus like it's a romance book where this is like a contemporary romance where like it reads like fiction, but it's a romance book.
That's true. So if we're going to go into that way, then I think the first one that I read has to be Get a Life. Yeah. Because literally I read that book, and the audiobooks are like my go-to. If you know me, you know that I love audiobooks. And the both narrators for this audiobook and for Get a Life, Chloe Brown were so good that it just made like the whole reading experience a lot better.
Because I read it with the audiobook too, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, the audiobook like really helps with it. And I don't know I think the reason I like contemporary romances is because it's a lot more relational, and there's a lot more like actual talking and actually understanding each other. Whereas in fantasy, we don't get that much. We're getting more plot and more action and world building.
I would even say there's sometimes more tension because it focuses a lot more on the relationship or lack thereof. Like in this book, you can tell the amount of like, yes, it's not like the heartthrob enemies to lovers tension, but there is tension in this book where it's like you can tell they love each other. Okay, full spoilers for this book.
Full spoilers ahead. As you guys know, every time we end up doing a book related episode,
It's a full spoiler episode.
Full of spoilers. Sorry about this, but once you do end up reading it, if you haven't read it already, make sure you guys come back to this episode because we do have a little special surprise for you at the end.
Yeah, so I would say that this book had a lot of tension because as you read, those who are probably listening, you probably read the book. It goes like time jumps between this summer versus like previous summers, and you can see that they clearly are in love with each other, like clearly point blank in love with each other. And there's tension in that, in the sense that yes, it's not like that, oh my gosh, I hate you tension. It's that tension of like, I don't want to ruin this kind of tension, but it's there because I want more, but I'm scared you don't want more. So there's this like tension where it's like, I don't know if I'm too scared to put myself out there because I don't want to lose something tension.
It's literally like, I know that we would be amazing, but how long would we be amazing? And it's like that's the thing that like holds a lot of people back from jumping forward, you know. And so it's something that everybody relates to. Like I keep thinking back in this book, and I'm just like, it hit home on so many different levels. My only negative about this book is that there was not a dual POV. That's my only thing. Because
Okay.
I swear, if we had Alex's point of view, I mean, I would be so much more frustrated with the two of them because it's like you both want it. You both want it.
So I want the one scene. Okay, I know we're gonna get into the books later, but the one scene that I would have loved to see Alex's POV is the one where he skips on his trip to Norway and stays with her in the apartment, and she snuggles up to him and she tells him she loves him, and then he's like, "That's just the fever talking." I would have loved to seen that from his point of view. I think that's like the one scene where, like, if Emily Henry did like a bonus chapter, like, I love those kind of bonus chapters where it's not like the full book is dual POV, but like they add a chapter at the end of like a POV from the other character's perspective, and you get more insight into it. I think that would have been really cool for this book.
My gosh, because I'm just saying, if I were inside Alex's head, my gosh, I would love him so much more.
Like, especially since Alex is like the classic nerd. Like, he's the classic reader. Like, even though he's a man, he's a classic reader. And it's so cute, like reading at a bar.
Literally us.
Literally us.
Yeah.
If Megan's listening, she'll know. I literally say literally because she was saying that when I was in, but literally it is us. Like,
it is because like, and the thing about him is just like, you know, that he feels so much. He feels and loves and cares so deeply. But he doesn't show it because, like, you know, of how he had to grow up, and you know, we'll get into that later on, but he had to like lock in everything. So it was just, that was my only thing. Everything else, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
So let's get started into this book. Let's start with the epilogue. Wait, no, prologue, which is 5 years ago, so 5 summers ago. And okay, that's when we see Alex. And when we were first introduced, we didn't know that we didn't know that they were friends or anything. And it honestly was kind of like cringy. It was so cringy. And you're just like, is this really how she's flirting? And then you find out, oh no, they know each other and she's teasing him. But it's like so cute that like she notices so many little things about him. Like, and that's how you know she's in love with him.
And this is like, you know, that's how the book opens up, is that she comes out of the bathroom, she walks into the bar, and she spots him. And that is just like, you don't know where this is gonna go, right? And me, because I'm stupid, I did not know that the story was going to be about her and Alex being friends. I literally thought it was gonna, I was confusing it with so many other summer vacation books, that I was just like, oh, it's gonna be one of those where, you know, the girl goes on vacation through some type.
Did you read the synopsis?
No, I didn't.
Okay, see, I never read the synopsis, but I knew a little bit. I knew that it was her and her friend who went on vacation.
No, I didn't know. And like, I thought she met this person who she knew from before, but through the vacation, that's where they got to know each other. I thought it was one of those. And so I'm reading this book, and like, it's not until later on that I'm like, if you follow me on Instagram, you probably have seen this update where I am going off like, I love them both so much, and they are just so funny and good together. And I'm just like, I hope that it's like a best friends to lovers kind of story, or college friends to lovers. And then as I'm saying that, I flip over to the back of the book and it says 2 best friends and 10 summer trips, 1 last chance to fall in love. And I'm just like, well, I'm stupid. I didn't know.
Okay, so I'm going to say something, and I think friends to lovers is my kind of like favorite trope right now with the summer reading. So like, it's friends to lovers and then like bully to lover. I think those are my 2 top right now. For contemporary romance, it's definitely the friends to lovers. And then for like my smuttier romance, Penelope Douglas kind of stuff, it's like that bully rivalry relationship. But I was literally talking with a friend today and I was like, a friends to lovers is like the ultimate relationship goal, because I was literally saying it is so hard, because like, I've been trying to date. Update on the last episode on store boy did not work out. I didn't feel that like connection. And like, I was like, that's why I need a guy to already be my friend, and then we fall in love, because I don't have to like prove that, oh hey, I'm worth it to be in a relationship. Like, we already know everything about each other, and that's like why we love each other.
Yeah.
So, and
And
that's
that's
why.
definitely why this book I think spoke to me, is because I've I've been in a lot of situations like this. Don't be making that face to me, Maggie. I've had a lot of most of my relationships or flings, we'll call them, have
Sneaky
been
links.
they've been friends first. And like, that's how I'm more comfortable, as like bridging that gap between, taking that next step forward. And oftentimes it's kind of like this thing of like, you've passed that threshold of not being awkward and being comfortable around each other, and flirting and joking and whatever, and being friends, that they're in that place. We'll call it Friend Island. They're in that place. You could easily take a boat right over to like Lover's Cove, or whatever. I'm sticking with this little
Beach
story.
theme.
Yeah. But it's like, once you stay long enough on like Friends Island or whatever, you get like upgraded to best friend, and once you're at best friends, it's so hard to like jump into something else, because it's just like we know too much about each other, or we're just so comfortable here in this space between us.
Yeah. And I'm gonna wait to say what I'm gonna say until later,
Okay.
when it comes up in the story. So we kind of, so going through it, we kind of see that like Poppy and Alex. Poppy needs to come up with a location to go to for work. She can't have any idea. She doesn't have any idea, and then she thinks, and then spontaneously she misses Alex, and she talks about that. And she messages him, and he's going to Palm Springs, and she pitches that to her boss, and her boss says no.
Yeah.
You're going to wherever the other Santorini. um and you see Poppy's like, well, I'm gonna go on vacation, and she goes on vacation, and Alex thinks that R&R, the company she works for, is
Is
paying for it.
Oh yeah. Okay, real quick pause. Let's settle on like her feelings at work, right?
Oh
That professional burnout, right?
yeah.
So I'm gonna be using the reader's guide for the people we meet on vacation. If you do have the paperback, I think it's in the ebook too. If you'll go to the end of the book, there's a reader's guide there that Emily Henry put in with a couple of discussion points. So we're gonna be using some of those in our talk today. And so one of the questions I want to go through, since we're kind of going through this book chronologically, is Poppy is going through professional burnout. Have you ever experienced that kind of fatigue, and how did you get through it professionally?
I would say I kind of feel that right now at work. Like, it's not professional work, it's Barnes and Noble, but I feel that where like you're like very excited at the beginning, and it goes good for a while, and then you just hit a standstill where like going to work feels like a chore, and you're like, oh, I want something other like else to do. Like, I used to be very excited to shelve YA and like to do shelving and stuff and organize sections, and now I like hate it. And I used to hate standing up at the cash register, but now I'm like, this is the only thing that will get me through the day, is standing here and waiting to scan people's stuff. So I'm kind of experiencing that now, and I work at a minimum wage job in a Barnes and Noble. um and like what I'm doing now to like help with that is I am I got free reign to do the book talk account for our social media for the store, and to do the book talk table, and to do like a spicy ladder. It's like a romance ladder. So that's what I'm doing to kind of get my creativity into my job back, is what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's good. And that's kind of often what you need to do, is that you just need to upgrade what you're doing in that position.
Yeah.
Me, well, um, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while now, you know that I used to work at a school. And I don't think I've kind of gone over how I started working there. So I started working there right out of high school. My mom actually started working there first, um, as a PE coach. And I got right out of high school because when I would have days off at school, I would come and help out my mom. And so people on campus knew me and the director knew me. And so when it was time for me to look for a job, she offered one part-time just while I was going to school, um, just like a few hours here and there. And I enjoyed it, and it was just like, campus aid kind of thing, monitoring students. And one day I took an art class and I remember liking art from back in like high school, and like I went to a performing arts elementary school, so I had some art background. And so I took an art class, just fill out requirements, and I was doing homework in the teachers lounge, and the director for this after school program was walking by, and she saw, and she was just like, "Hey, like why don't you become our art teacher, for the program?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not so sure about it this year, whatever." Let it go. The next year, I decided I wanted to pick up some more extra hours. So I did join and I did it. So I'm working there. And I started off like a campus aide, then I became like an art person. And then I started feeling that feeling of like, this isn't what I planned to do. I wanted to go to school for physical therapy. I wanted to do that. And it just wasn't working out in school or at work. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was just like, I need to leave this place, this job. That didn't happen. But we did that year, someone came on to become a theater teacher, and we put on a play production. And they asked me to start helping out with set designs. And then I realized, wow, hold on, I'm pretty good at this. And that's where I started figuring out that I like doing art and I like becoming a graphic designer. And that's when I changed things at school and started changing things at work. So then I became a stage director and co-directing a play. And then I started doing specialized art programs at work and things like that. So like you said, like, you stick with your position, but then you end up changing it and like reshaping it to something that you wanted to do. And now that I'm not there anymore, I feel that same thing of like, what's going to make me happy? Like, that's the main thing, is like, cause like, Poppy, she's just like, what is it that makes me happy? Because Rachel's like probing her. You need to figure out what that is. And for like the past 2 years, I haven't known what that is. What is it that makes you happy? And that's like a deep question. Because like you can't just be like, oh, what makes you happy? And you're just like, coffee makes me happy. Because that makes you feel content for like an hour, but that's not what really makes you happy. And trying to figure that process out of like your true self is so hard. Like you are often hiding yourself from everybody in the world. Like you can be a sister, you can be a daughter, you can be a friend, and that's somebody that you are to everyone else. But who you are for yourself, that's completely different. And for a lot of people, figuring that out is so hard because they don't know. They don't know who they are without other people around them.
Yeah.
And it sucks a little bit. But, I mean, I wish we all could get paid vacations to go off and figure ourselves out, because, man, were the places I would go. But yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out some way, somehow. Sorry, I went off track. Anyways, back to the book.
Yeah. So we see she's in this like stagnant, like she's done the traveling, and this is where she's at life, where she's like, I don't she's not she's content. She's not happy. And she notices this when she's thinking back about Alex, and she's thinking about like the first time they met. and stuff. And their like meeting is such a classic like college meeting where it's so awkward and you're kind of just there and you're just forced together. That's how I met my friends in college. We're just like forced. Well, actually, I bothered them until we all became friends and we created a little friend group with like movie nights and stuff. But like it's that awkward like, hey, where are you from? I'm from here. Oh, cool. What's your degree? This like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
What,
Okay.
do you have this teacher? No. Oh, okay. Like it's that awkward conversation, and we see that between Alex and Poppy.
And they like immediately don't vibe. They're like completely polar opposites. And like, that first encounter is like something so weird for them. Look, here's another question.
Yeah, I knew that was a question.
When they first meet, Alex and Poppy are immediately put off by each other. Have you ever met a friend after a bad impression and you stuck with them? Have you? I have.
You tell your story, and then I'll think of mine.
You think of yours. So in high school, my first year, I probably have told this story kind of. In high school, I was homeschooled for middle school. And so when I went to high school, I thought high school was going to be like High School Musical because I had no idea what it was going to be like. Well, not with the singing and
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. We
but
talked
like,
about
the
it.
dynamics, of like, the different groups and, finding your place. And that's how it used to be back then. Nowadays, high school is not really like that. You can just flow wherever. But at the time, I didn't know. So I made my first friends because they mentioned volleyball and I tried out with them. And it turns out they were juniors and seniors.
Oh yeah.
And so I hung out with them. And then the second semester, that's when I started hanging around with friends my age. And currently, my best friend, sorry, Maggie, you are my best friend too.
Is it the sister?
No, it's not the sister. So I have 4 best friends. I have my sister, you, my best friend, and then my other best friend. Okay.
Okay. Do they know about me?
Yeah, they know about you.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. My sister probably not. My sister. Wait, whoa.
Okay, I see how this. I see how this is. I see how this is.
Wait.
No. You can't backtrack. You can't take it back. I see how this is. You have
That's
met
the
my
point
roommate.
of the story. Let me clarify real quick. My sister and I hardly talk unless unless I butt dial her, which I do often. But it's usually like, did you butt dial me? And I was just like, yeah, sorry, my bad. And then we hang up and that's it. Me and her don't really talk because, she's a mom and, she's dealing with her thing. So it's kind of like we're friends. And it's just like, hey, what are you up to? Oh, okay, cool. And then that's it. So she doesn't even know about everything else. So
Okay.
chill. Okay. But my other ones who I talk to, they know.
Okay.
They might be listening now. Diana, if you hear this, I love you. Okay. So, so my best friend, who is the only friend that I talk to out of high school now, when we first met, she literally did not like me. She thought I was a total bitch. And which is kind of hard to believe because I'm nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm agreeing with you.
I'm
just trying to think like I'm trying to think of like back when we first met and I'm like, yeah, you were pretty nice. Like that's why I was like I was concentrating. I wasn't like, no, you weren't nice. I was like, yes.
I don't know. Okay. So then she basically like just tried to keep her distance from me, but then it just so happens that I was known by a lot of people in school. So then we ended up becoming friends simply because we had a class together. And then it turns out we had 4 other classes together and we became friends and we had a whole group. and she is the only person that I see. Matter of fact, I am the godmother to her son, and probably her son that's coming on the way too. But yeah, had we stuck, I don't know the exact story of how we met, but yeah. And then another quick story on
I think you
the
told
side,
it on the podcast.
probably. But the other one that was like a weird encounter, not friend, boyfriend. The first time I met my boyfriend from high school is like I finished some questionnaire that the teacher gave us on the first day. And I remember this boy sitting next to me with like a beanie and like hunched over, writing his answers in kind of bouncy, jittery, super excited kind of way. And I'm sitting back, kind of like looking at him side eye, like, okay, whatever. I'm already mad because I didn't find the cutest boy in the room who was ultimately going to be my Troy Bolton. So I was kind of let down. And then I look at him, and then like he looks up at me and he goes like, "Hey." And I was like, "Hi." And I like turn away. Flash forward a year and a
I
half
think
later.
we talked about this.
Yeah, he's my awkward encounter, if we can count it that way.
I don't know if I had, I think, okay, so if I think back to my junior year of high school, I was almost 4 years ago. Oh, fuck.
What?
It was, but no, I think that was 5 years ago now.
5 years ago? That was
Okay, shut up. You're old. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. What was that, 10 years ago for you? Wait. No. It was 8 years ago.
You're pretty close though.
Back to my story. It's that like awkward, like we were sitting together, like personal finance, we were like next to each other, and it's that awkward thing where you don't even remember how you became friends. You just become friends, and you're like
Yeah.
start talking with them and stuff, and then y'all like exchange phone numbers for like group assignments and stuff, and then y'all become friends. And that friendship really broke my heart when we stopped being friends.
Yeah. Those are the people that you kind of like, you weren't even worth it, but then you were. And then you weren't.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the friendship that like we broke up and we didn't talk for like a good solid year to year and a half, and then he called me. He does a weird thing where like he'll call me, but if I don't answer, he'll say he like butt dialed, or if I answer, he's like, "Hey." And I'm like, "What do you want?" Yeah.
I have a friend like that too. It's been a while since I talked to him. I might reach out to him after this.
I mean, I honestly thought about reaching out to my guys, Alex, actually. His name is Alex. But he was like my best. He was like, it was a platonic, like, and I did end up liking him, but I was like, I just can't. He had a girlfriend and stuff. And his girlfriend at the time was just a serious bitch. They were like breaking up like how this Alex was. They were breaking up constantly. Like they broke up like twice in 1 week. And he's like, I don't know why I'm with her. And I'm like, are you serious?
Me neither.
I was like, "Oh my god." And he like didn't tell her. And then he told her that I tried to come on to him and told him to break up with her.
No.
And he told her that. And I was like,
No.
"I can't be friends with you anymore. You betrayed my trust." And he still has yet to this day told her that. And I'm like, "That's why I don't think I can ever be like a friend with you anymore, is because you still haven't told her the truth." Where cuz her and I were friends. I lost my whole friend group after that. Like,
Drop him.
I dropped him. Yeah, no.
Never, ever bring him back up.
Yeah, no, it was so toxic where I was just like heartbroken because like I did like him and stuff. But then I'm like, you used that against me to protect yourself because I knew he liked me back kind of situation. And he wouldn't be honest with his girlfriend. And I was like, so every time I would see him in the hall, I acted like he didn't exist. That's the type of person I am, is if you fuck with me, you are done with my life. Literally, I would see him in the hall, but I did that thing where like I look forward and act like I don't see you.
Let me take that as a warning never to.
No, because I literally will drop people. Like if like I will drop them and never look back.
Watch Maggie find out that like I don't like one of her favorite books and she'll just be like, "Oh, that's a drop right there."
We're ending the podcast. We're ending our Etsy shop. We are done. No.
We're gonna have to put out an apology video. So guys, listen up.
Okay, back to the story.
Okay. So I did want to.
I'm sorry, Calvin. I'm sorry, Calvin. We have not been talking about books. I'm sorry, Calvin.
Okay, so like, look, there's this part. Okay, that night where she's like thinking about texting him, and then like she's deleting the message, and then that feeling of like, should I know? I'm overthinking it. Like, I swear everybody has gone through that. That feeling of like, should I text them? Should I respond? And then like you accidentally send the message. I think I've told this story before about how like my ex was like FaceTiming me constantly when I was like done with him, and like he had just finished FaceTiming me and I tried to delete the notification on my phone and it accidentally redials and I get so flustered. Fumbling with the phone and he picks up and I just hit end. And I'm like, that's it. Like, I swear that feeling has like always like stuck with me because it was just so funny. But like that feeling of like you not waiting for them to respond, waiting to see where it's gonna go. And for them, like we already know that Alex has been thinking about her every day. He has not stopped loving her and
they're both in love with they're
both in love with each other. And like he was waiting for the moment that she would reach out to him because he thought he fucked up, right? And she thought she fucked up. And so like the way that they start texting is like so them that it's like, where have you, like, it's those friendships where you pick up
immediately where you left off. It's that friendship where you could be separated for such a long time and you could message each other and get right back into like talking again and stuff. It's and like you see it throughout like the book and stuff is how they both are so invested in each other. Like it's not just like the friendship, but they're both invested in the well-being of the other person.
Yeah.
And it's so
they cute. Literally care. They care so much about each other and they know each other. It's not like, you know, they are only friends with the one side of the person. Like, you know, friends that you meet, it takes them a while for them to know every single part of you. Like a lot of friends, they only know the side of you that, you know, reads books, or the only side of you that they know is like the part that listens to this type of music, or the part of you that only likes this type of movies. There's never really that person that knows everything about you. And I think the reason why Alex and Poppy were able to move past that was because when they first met, they were already not well. They did not mesh together. They did not have good expectations of where this friendship was going to go because they started on such a bad foot. But throughout their friendship, like we see them on the drive home when they're like first like getting to know each other, like it's not very comfortable, but because they're so different and they're so curious about each other, it like lends that like I'm so invested in knowing more about this person and I don't know why. And then they're best friends. Like it comes out of nowhere that they realize it. And it's like the most beautiful thing.
It's so cute and like the thing that like that car ride where they both are just talking to each other and like trying to find out everything about each other, you knew then like that was going to be more than a friendship.
Yeah.
That was going to be
like more. That was first date conversation.
Yeah.
Straight up. Like, what's your favorite color? Do you have any siblings? That's straight up first date conversation. Not saying that friendships can't, you know, start off that way, but, you know, it just was very intimate for people who supposedly aren't going to like each other, you know? And it was a good conversation. And then, like, okay, so let's go into that airport scene, the first airport scene when they first see each other. I was so scared. I was like, how is this gonna go?
Okay, the thing about Alex is like he is so invested in Poppy that I knew Alex I think would be okay, but I didn't know how Poppy would react. That's how my thing was. This whole book, I was focusing, I guess maybe because it is the POV of Poppy, but I just felt like this whole book, I was kind of like, what is Poppy gonna do next? Like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Because we could obviously tell that like Alex was in love with her. We could obviously tell, even though it was in her POV, we could obviously tell that all the little things he would do, he was still like in love with her. And it kind of broke my heart too when she was like, she'd think about it, but then be like, no, I don't want to ruin this friendship. And I was just like, oh,
Girl,
I've been there and I know what you're talking about. And like, but the thing is, like, I've been there and I've said something and then it totally backfired on me. So I've been on the opposite side of it where it's like that was used against me and I was like outcasted from my friend group. So like I get the like being scared of like putting yourself out there, but I'm like now I'm like I wouldn't have the friends that I have now if I wasn't removed from that
yeah,
friend group.
yeah, and like that, just the way that he just like comes up to her and he just holds her like let's talk a quick second for that hug, because like the way that she describes that hug is literally like, girl, do you not see? Like, first of all, no one gives hugs like that for whoever. Those hugs, and she described it in like 3 different levels. It's that hug where they're holding each other like chest to chest, rib to rib, arms almost grappling at the shoulders around the back, right? And then it like loosens and him hugging her around his waist and holding it, right? Or her mid back, and then like down to her waist. And I was like, you got all 3 levels of the perfect hug. And you over here wondering about where he's at. Girl, girl, what are we doing?
Like, and you can see how even when like they go to get the car and stuff, you can see how he like yeah, he's a little like
He's kind of tentative and wondering what she's gonna do.
yeah, and that's the thing is everybody knows like he's into her and stuff, but it's Poppy. It's literally Poppy who's just so indecisive and scared, and you're like Poppy, put your head on right and look at what he's doing. But like
But
I get it too, where it's like you question like is he just doing this because he's a friend or is he doing it because he likes me kind of thing? Because
yeah,
I've been there. I've been confused and I've gotten mixed signals from a guy best friend too where it's like I don't know if you're doing this because you like me or because you think I'm a friend where it's like where's the line.
yeah. And that's the problem, like where like guys are always saying like girls are so confusing, like I'm always stuck in the friends zone kind of thing. And it's because like girls, when we have, we're emotional creatures and we build relationships on emotion. So when we have friends, they are very emotional friends. Like we vent to them, we laugh with them, we do all of these things. And to a guy who, men aren't really allowed to have those emotional type of relationships. So when they see that, they always think it's more. So that's why a lot of them get confused on like, oh, well, she just put me in the friend zone. She's flirting with me. And girls are like, no, but you're literally just my friend. Like, that's how friends are supposed to be. And for guys, it's not like that, right?
Yeah.
And for Alex, he had to be the oldest kid. He had to grow up really fast. He had to be basically like a mother almost to a mother and a father to all of his family. And he may have like wanted to say that he knew that he loved her, right? He knew he loved her, but at the same time
He was also scared
he was terrified
because
of what that
honestly
would do.
Poppy dresses in these eccentric clothes and stuff and I can get where Alex is coming from where he's like I don't know if she would even want, and he literally says it. He literally says that he thinks he's too boring for her. And that really hit hard where it's like everybody feels like that where it's like I mean, I'm not going to lie, I do have a big personality. And like I do come off as like this eccentric like personality in real life. My friends are always like, "Oh yeah, she's the bubbly one, the one who is out there, the one who gets random tattoos and is like who always is able to have a good time." And like that is intimidating. A lot of people have said that I might not be a severely intimidating person, but I'm an intimidating person because I am outgoing, which I be outgoing because I hide my introvertness.
Yeah, you have a intimidating personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that's something that kind of throws him off. That's like the forefront of like that's the first wall that he
Yeah.
sees. Though there's so many other reasons, that he says at the end what it was. And they're both kind of like walking on eggshells throughout like the whole beginnings of this trip. Like she's just like, is he okay? And that worry is there. It's real. You don't know how you're going to react with this person, and you don't know how that person's going to react with you, right? And so they finally get to the hotel, and
The Airbnb.
the Airbnb. And let me just say, when I heard them go no, and it was only one bed, I was like, thank God.
I was like, it has to be the one bed trope. And I texted Pauline and I went, it's the one bed trope. I was like, oh my God.
It was like perfect. And
Yeah.
then we see like, oh, it's a pull-out chair bed or whatever. And I'm just like, first of all, that's not gonna last. Let's whatever. And like, then we go through all of this, and okay, there's this one line that literally Alex melted me. It's on like page 107, I think. I'm gonna turn there real quick. It's on 108. Where she's looking at him and like, she's just saying like, oh, how good he looks, and like he's so buff or whatever, right? And then oh shit, where is it? Oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong page. Am I looking at the wrong page? No, I'm not. Oh, okay. And they're talking about like, oh, how much we've changed our bodies and everything. It's page 107. And she looks at him, he's all fit and physiqued and everything. And then she just like looks at her like little floop belly, and she's just like, oh, I'd kill to have my body from back then. He's like, you really want your 18-year-old body? She's like, yeah, I'd settle for 25. And he says, you look better than you did back then, Poppy. And I was like, this man.
That's so validating. To hear a man say that is so validating.
And it's not like, yeah, you could hear that from a guy and it'd be like, whatever. But it's the fact that he knows her and he has a real relationship with her. And he knows, like, hearing it come from somebody who actually matters in your life, it just feels more. Yeah, if you would hear it from like some random guy, it'd be like, okay, whatever, like, ew, pervert, right? But then hearing it from somebody who actually matters to her, who cares about her, who she thinks has this incredible like physique. And you know how we think of like gym guys who are very like, um materialistic, and how they like view their bodies and things like that, and how they want super fit girls or whatever, when usually that's not the case. Usually guys who like care about their bodies and like, go to work out and do all these things to maintain themselves, usually go for girls
who are bigger.
and who aren't really like, yeah, they would, of course they would want, you know, like a gym buddy to go with them, a gym girlfriend, but a lot of them don't care too much about how the
It's the
girl looks.
confidence. It's the
Yeah.
confidence. It's not how much, it's not just how much what her body looks like, it's if she's confident in her body. I think that is a very key difference.
And it's also a thing of like, gym guys know what it's like to go through that body dysmorphia. They understand it because they are going through it constantly. Like, yeah, you know, girls, we all feel that. It's something we all relate to. But guys, they
Guys
go
have it hard. Like, you have to admit, like, yes, beauty standards are hard for women and they're talked about a lot more, but guys are constantly like, oh, it's always common where it's like, oh, um, guys need to have these rock hard abs and be like over 6 feet, and that is, and yes, women get the same thing where it's like short, skinny, blonde, like they're both men and women like get this kind of body dysmorphia when it comes to the media and how it's portrayed as like what is the ideal body type. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily talk about men and men's struggles when it comes to body dysmorphia and the way they view their bodies, because it seemed like, oh, it's a man's created issue.
when it's been created by both genders,
Yeah.
and that's usually how women create their own body dysmorphia as well. Like, you know, it's something that people don't realize that everybody kind of goes through. Some people are handling it much better than others, and some are really going through with it. And you know, it's not to say that, you know, Alex's little comment was like the most amazing thing to ever be heard, but it was just like a soft, tender thing that he spoke that was an absolute truth to him. That is what made her feel amazing and what made me feel like, oh gosh, if a guy said it to me, it's not really what he said, but it's the way that he said it, the intention with what he said.
It's the fact that he wanted her to recognize that she should feel confident in her body. And he wanted her to be like, but you look great now. So why
Yeah,
look into the past when you're beautiful the way you are? It's kind of that thing where like, I see the beauty in you and I want you
you
to see
are
what I see.
desired. You're
Yeah.
desired right now. You have always been desired, and you are especially desired
Oh,
right
my
now.
mother
Not
says
only
hi.
did-
My mother texts me. She's like, "Oh, say hi to Grace."
Tell your mom said hi. Okay, moving on. Okay. I'm going through my notes here.
Yeah. Go
because,
ahead. Grace is the one who
because
took notes.
because so I'm kind of like gonna start speeding forward. We start seeing them kind of kick off this vacation. Everything's going bad. The AC is terrible. And as a person who, like my dad, he's the type of guy who's just like, he gets hot really, really easily. And when he gets hot, he gets frustrated. So,
Mhm.
like that heat, I know. And I live close to Palm Springs. I know what that heat is like getting to. Cause like literally like last week we were like 102, 103 or something like that. And it was like it didn't feel bad because, you know, I'd been getting used to it, but I knew when I used to come and visit over here, I was like, how the hell do you guys survive and anything beyond 76 degrees?
Where did you live?
I lived in Los Angeles, remember?
It gets hot there though, doesn't it?
Yeah, but like it doesn't reach 80s like majority of the time.
Not in the summer?
Yeah, in the summer, but like it's not, it doesn't feel like that. It's
What's the
usually
highest it gets in the summer in Los Angeles?
like these past couple of years,
Yeah.
like 90.
Really? I don't know why I thought it would be hotter. I guess because there's the sea breeze and stuff, and you're kind of next to the mountains, so it kind of like circulates, I guess. But like I grew up in
If
Texas and
it
it got hot.
if it goes past if it goes into 90s, it's like, oh, it's hot, you know. But usually already at like 78 degrees, they're like, oh, it's gonna be a hot day. That's just us. Don't. Yeah, I know. Anyways, so I
live
know
in
what it.
Southern California and you think 78 degrees is hot?
We think 78 degrees is hot, and we think 65 is cold.
Y'all are whack shit. That's LA shit. That is LA bullshit. That's what that is. That's LA bullshit. I remember sitting in Texas heat. It's like over 100 degrees. We're playing outside. One girl got heat stroke one time. Like, that's what my childhood was.
It was something.
But yes, I related to that where it's like so hot and you're sticky and you can't do anything about it. I did that in like Girl Scouts camp and stuff where it's like so we're in the cabin, there's no air conditioning. It's 100 plus degrees outside and you want to go to sleep but you can't because everything just sticks to you. It's disgusting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, so the vacation's not off to a good start, right? We have a lot of things. We have a couple of, awkward conversations between them, and then we have them going to bed. And of course, Alex finds a way to be himself, and he ends up taking the bed on the side, the little pull-out chair
Being
bed.
a gentleman he is, he takes the bed because he takes this like couch because he wants Poppy. But like him waking up in the morning and like his
Not even in the morning. It's like in the middle of the night almost.
no, it's like 4 a.m. He wakes up to
Yeah. Which is like middle of the night to me. I go to sleep
Okay.
like at 2 a.m. That's
But
like 2 hours from
they
bed.
go to bed at like 10 p.m. So it's like morning or it's early morning for him because he's getting up to go on a run.
Yeah.
So he's
And
start off his day and he's like moping around, like getting around, pulls his back, and then is like saying shit, and Poppy thinking there's a stranger in the like a robber in the room, and she's like, I'm gonna call 911, and he's like,
what?
he's like, bitch, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh my gosh. And then you like see him like struggling and he's like, no, I'm fine. It's just, it gets like this. And you start seeing like the first signs of them being like, oh, I've missed, this has been going on for so long. And I don't know about it because I haven't been talking with him, right?
And the fact that it happened after Tuscany, like it happened after they started, like I was thinking about that. I was like, okay, so his health started deteriorating after he stopped talking with Poppy.
Yeah. It's kind of sus. It's kind of sus, right?
Yeah.
And we have Poppy like kicking in and just like, okay, how can I help you? What can I do? And I gotta say, like, I'm that type of person too. It's like as soon as I like see something, I'm like, I'm up. What do you need? What I got you. And I'm also that type of person. It's just like, no, it's okay. Leave me alone. I'm literally both of them.
I love the parallel of him taking care of her when
Yeah.
when they were gonna go to Normandy, but she got sick in New York, and then her taking care of him. I think that's such parallel, and the fact that like, but I also think it's different how like Poppy accepted his help when he came, and she's like, when he finally like came to her apartment, and he was like, I'm gonna help you, and she's like, okay. And then you see her like crying, like, do I take a shower? I'm sorry, I peed the bed. And we have that whole scene, but then we see like him and he's like, no, I'm fine. And he's like pushing like I'm okay. Where Alex is this very independent person and he wants to be the caretaker of Poppy. And Poppy's like, no, you're gonna get in that bed. You're going to do this, this, and this, and I'm gonna go do this for you. Let me do this for you. And I just think that's so cute that she was like, let me take care of you. And I
Yeah.
love the taking care of the other person trope. The sick
And we got it twice. And we got it twice.
Like Emily Henry really hit all the the one bed trope, the sick trope, it's if you think about it, it's not enemies to lovers, but it
But
falls
it
under
has.
it falls under that like thing of like they're not really friends, but they're still kind of they're like strangers to lovers again, but they're not really strangers. It's like friends to
Strange,
strangers to lovers
like
again.
estranged friends.
Yeah, estranged.
Yeah. And so, we have that cute scene of them taking care of each other. And like that feeling of like him not being useful was like, that was so him, right? And then we move on and we get like another flashback chapter, which I love. I love going back and seeing how their friendship has progressed. And I feel like those chapters were like perfectly timed in
Yeah,
these pieces that we needed that development in the
because they
relationship.
played into what was happening. So like
Yeah.
you played into like her taking care of him and him taking care of her. I will say I didn't really enjoy the one. I thought it was funny, like them in Canada and her going with the guy and like them almost hooking up, but then she leaves and goes back to the tent and sleeps in the tent with Alex. I was okay with that story. It wasn't my favorite flashback. I was just kind of
I
like,
think
okay, but I thought it was funny because the book is people we meet on vacation and then later shows up at the end.
I think that person though, I think that was like their first moment of like us seeing their kind of dynamic
Yeah.
with other people.
Yeah.
So it was good. But
It was good.
like this the next one that happens like after the back spasm is the one with like Julian, where we start seeing like other lovers or other boyfriends or
Yeah.
relationships come through. And like Julian was like whatever to me. Like, girl, it's not it.
It's not
But
Alex.
one part that really stuck out to me was like on page like
I know which part you're talking about.
it's like on page 145 where he says she's describing kind of like how they look at each other, and she mentioned how like she says like she's talking about I kind of want to
They're
context.
talking about
They're talking about their other past relationships, right? About them being married and things like this, right? And then she goes on to say like, I don't even know if I want to get married. I think I'm about to start my period or something.
mhm.
And then he stares down at me, his face inscrutable, for another beat. It doesn't make me feel x-rayed like Julian's eyes. It makes me feel seen. And I was just like, okay, this point is so important, because the way that Julian made her feel when he would look at her was like Julian didn't really care about her. He didn't, and you see that in like the way that they describe the relationship with Julian. Like he was just,
It was a fling is what
yeah,
Julian treated it as, and Poppy was more into him than it's that classic I was into him more than he was into me, where Julian expected like a fling kind of thing, and Poppy wanted more of like a stable relationship. And the fact that Alex gets kind of mad at Julian,
mm,
mm,
mm. I
mm.
love the way that Alex like like is ready to throw. Like I don't think he would throw hands, but I just feel like in
Oh,
his
I think
mind,
Alex
okay, he would,
he'd throw words
he would, he would.
rather than throwing hands.
He's not the type to like do like a full outburst, right? But like I feel like in his mind, he's beating up any guy who ever wronged Poppy. Like in that flashback when they're talking about high school, right? And you know, her bullies and everything. And then he's just like, "Oh, your students would probably bully me too." And he says, "I'd fucking waste them. I'd fucking waste anyone who ever messes with you." Any guy who ever messes. And I was like, yeah,
Alex
yeah,
literally is the dream. Like, let's be honest, Alex is the dream because
it is.
he puts in the effort and like you can tell through all the little things that like he he
He
really cares
he
for her.
he literally hits like all of the love languages everywhere, and
Yeah.
it's like, damn, everywhere. Okay, so I'm trying to speed through this book, right? Um, and then when Alex asks her if she's gonna break up with Julian, like, come on, you can't be seriously staying with this guy.
And she's like, I don't know, maybe.
And but she knows that she wants to say yes, and it's like, girl,
Well, she wants to say yes, but she's like it's that thing where it's like, do I say what happens if I say yes? Is he gonna push me to say yes? It's that like it's I'm you're asking me this and I want you to push me because I want you to tell me you want me kind
yeah,
of thing where it's like I need she's kind of desperate in the sense that she needs somebody and she kind of goes through these relationships not like saying she's too desperate, but like she wants that connection with somebody, and so she keeps looking for it, and she has Alex and she wants Alex to tell her that he wants her, but he doesn't. And so she tries to find it with other people.
And it's not there. And she realizes it usually comes back to every summer when they end up going together and she's dating somewhere else, that she realizes that whoever she was dating was not it.
And she forgets about them when they're on vacation, because literally on vacation when they're on vacation together, it's just them two. And Alex forgets about other people too. Like when he mentions that, like they mentioned that, where like Alex forgets about Sarah when they go on vacation.
They don't worry about anyone, right?
Yeah.
They don't worry about anybody else, and they just let it go.
Yeah.
And so then we kind of move forward and we kind of get a little bit more of like their trip, right? And then we have the night where they decide to watch a movie, and she opens up the computer and she sees the web pages of
The fact that he's looking for jobs in New York, and it's not even like a full, like it's been like a day that they've been on vacation together and he's already thinking about moving to New York. My question, I want to know, like, how long has he been thinking about moving to New York? Was he going to move to New York and surprise her when he was there and be like, "Hey, I'm here now"? Like, was he like, I wanted to know like what he would do. That would have been a cool like insight to see from his perspective, like how long he was looking for jobs in New York.
it was gosh. And then then we start going into like the Tinder profiles.
Okay, that was kind of hot. That was so hot where he was looking, she's like looking, she's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, you don't want her, you don't want her." And he's like, "Well, let me see your profile. Let me see if I'd swipe right on you." And she shows him and he's like, "Of course I would." And she's just like
Internally screaming.
you know the Doja Cat, the scream.
Yes, literally,
Literally, that's what it is.
Let me mark that down for a TikTok later. Doja Cat scream Tinder.
Yeah.
Tinder profile.
Are you stealing my ideas? You better be inspired by. You better tag me in the inspiration.
Oh my gosh. But that was like literally perfect. And then that's like something that you would do for somebody you care about. But it's always kind of like that thing of like I'm helping you find somebody else, but I'm really looking for you, you know? And like the fact that he's starting to say these things, it's like he's starting, because like before in all the flashbacks, he doesn't say those things. He always stops himself, right? But you see in like the present day that he does say those things. He does say something, and then he's like waiting for her. And we see this a couple of times where he's like waiting to see what she will say to take them into that next conversation.
It's becoming more confident.
Yeah, and then she just turns away. And then for him, that's like, okay, she's not ready. Moving on, right? And oh gosh, that scene was just like the most my goodness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, something. And then like later on when like the way that they have this connection is not just like on the physical part of them, it's just that their souls kind of like mesh well. They're completely different, right? But then their souls mesh well so perfectly that they understand each other on like a deeper level. Like later on when he shows her his story, and he's like showing it to for the first time about the boy with the broken wings, and then people keep telling him that he'll fly, but then they stop after he has broken wings, and he feels happy after that because he doesn't have to live up to this pressure of being something else. And she's reading this story and she starts crying, and he's just like kind of confused on it. And then she says like, "Oh, it spoke to me." And that's like their running joke, right? It spoke
And
to
he
me.
doesn't react. And
He kind
she's
of just
like,
oh.
yeah.
And it's like, and that's why I want to know what was going on in his head. Like, did he think, oh, I remember those moments? Like, does he
Well, he
think
says he remembers everything though.
well, yeah, later on, but I want to know what he was thinking during those exact moments when she said something about the past and then brought it up. But like, okay, the story, like, about nothing, no art piece ever speaks to her, no nothing, but his story, the fact that he wrote it. And as a writer, the things that you write usually mirror something that you are also dealing with, battling with. It could be a small thing that you overcome, that you turn into this grand story, right? And it was something so true to him and so true to her that it, like, she understood it perfectly. And it just goes to show that, yeah, they're different, right? But they're both lonely.
Yeah.
That's so pretty. That story.
I just, and then like, Alex is a dream man. Alex is the dream man. Um, but we kind of move forward. I kind of want to just talk about, we see the trip to, not to Tuscany, to where did they go with their significant others? They went with
The group vacation.
the group vacation was so awkward to read about, and like to see the interactions between Sarah and Poppy. And this is where I kind of wanted to bring back what I was going to say earlier, is like, I kind of feel for Sarah. Like, the guy you're dating has this girl best friend where they go on vacations alone together. They have been friends for forever, and they like, at least at least she likes him. Like, we've seen this all the time where it's like that girl best friend trend on like TikTok, where it's like, I'm the girl best friend, and you realize like, oh, I've been holding him, like, most of them are like the platonic girl best friends, but it's kind of like that, where Sarah even mentions it later. It's like, y'all, you both should have realized sooner. It would have like saved other people. And in that trip, when we see that she thinks she's pregnant,
When she thinks that she's pregnant.
and then
Oh, and like,
then
it, the way that he, like, immediately, like, he's in that bubble with her. Like, okay, yeah, we don't condone emotional cheating,
I feel
but
like he did, though, emotionally cheat. He mostly cheated with
he did. They
Sophie.
both did.
So on Sarah.
They both did. In every single relationship that they were in, they were emotionally cheating. They
Yeah.
went into those relationships even though most of their heart belonged to someone else. Like,
And
it
I think
wasn't
that's why I'm glad he never proposed to Sarah, because he was gonna propose to her.
because
And
I have stuff to say about that one too. But let
okay,
me focus
but
on this pregnancy thing. Like, as soon as he realized, he saw what was in her hand, I swear to you, in his head, he's just like, Poppy, this is it. This is, I need
he's
to be
lost her.
for her. That's, I want. And he knew for sure that Guillermo, like, who was it that she was with?
I don't even remember.
What was his name? What was his
It was something
name?
with a T.
It was sheesh, I don't even remember any of these guys. Um Trey. It was
Trey.
the photographer.
Yeah.
You know, and like,
And he knew Trey wouldn't be there for her. He
he
knew.
knew Trey wouldn't be there for her because, like, if you saw the conversation before when they were like, Sarah and Trey, like, immediately teamed up and started, like, going in on Poppy.
Yeah.
Not heavy, but
It was
in
just kind
a
of like
way,
that. Like, why
in a-
do you need to do that?
yeah, and it was kind of like in a way where, like, Alex was like, wanted to jump in and defend Poppy, but he also was just like, I can't do that. Her man is right there,
Yeah.
and the PDA thing, I bet you it killed him
That's
to,
probably why he doesn't. Is because it kills him to see it with her, that he's like, I don't want that for her.
yeah. And, like, he doesn't want to do it with other people because they're not her.
Yeah.
I mean, he still has, like, I still want to be respectful around other people, and that's how he is. But still, and then, like, you see how that conversation went, and then you immediately know that Trey's not going to be there for her. So he's just like, we'll make it work. We'll do something. I'll be here for you no matter what. And it's just like, and then she's the one that brings up the reality. You're dating someone else. How
Yes.
is that going to work? And I bet you that thought did not even cross his mind about Sarah.
Well,
He did
that's the
not think
thing,
about her
is
at
he
all.
didn't think about Sarah, and the fact that he got a vasectomy after that trip where he was like, "I don't wanna get anybody pregnant because of what happened." Because if you think about it, he's like, "I don't wanna get Sarah or anybody else I'm dating pregnant because I don't want to do that to Poppy. I don't want that to ruin my chances of being with Poppy." If you think about it, that's what he was thinking about, because he realized if Poppy was pregnant with another man's son, you know full well Alex would have been there, but
it wouldn't have
Poppy,
been his. It
it
would
wouldn't
have
have
been
been
the
his.
guy.
And there's still like, yes, you can still love a child and
Yeah,
stuff, but it's still there's still that thing where it's like your first child, and Alex wants that with her, and he's like, I don't want to have that with anybody else unless it's
and
Poppy.
and even further than that, the other guy would always be between them.
Yeah.
Even if they ended up getting together later on in life and she had a kid with somebody else, that other man would be in between them. And he
And
would
I think it's
anyone.
important. I think it's important for, I think, Poppy, when she was like, "Well, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna move away from New York, move to Ohio, and live next to you and Sarah." Like, that's the reality of it. When he was saying like, "I'll take care of you" and stuff, and she's like, "What are you gonna take care of me? How? You have a girlfriend, and I'm not just gonna kind of like leech onto you and your
Yeah.
girlfriend." Like, as a
And
girl,
that's how she's always felt. She's always felt like he was always taking care of her, and she always felt like she didn't deserve to come in and demand for him to be with her
yeah,
because of everything that he always did for her. Like she
yeah,
couldn't do that to him. And
yeah,
this is like an extreme version of that, but she always has that feeling of I can't take away from his life.
yeah.
And that's what stops her from moving forward. And the fact that he you know right then is when they realize this relationship is as close to crossing boundaries as it can ever get.
Yeah.
We both have other people.
Yeah, and I think, and like the fact that Sarah didn't know he got a vasectomy.
And okay, and then like then when the tests come negative and he starts
Crying.
crying, I had to stop for a second because I was like, you
This
know
fool. This fool.
but yeah, but it wasn't that. It was more of just like that's where he actually realized that fear, because if you look at his dad was so in love with his wife, so in love with Alex's mom, that when she was gone, he could not survive without her. He did not know how to go on without her. Alex knows what that type of gut-wrenching love can do if the other person is gone. And the fact that his mother died through birth complications,
And he
that's
didn't
what
want that
runs.
to happen to Poppy.
He did
I,
not want that to run through Poppy, and he already knew. He already knew that he loved Poppy as much as his dad loved his mom. And he knew that if he were to lose her like that, if he were to lose her, period, he wouldn't know how to survive. And
I
it's like,
almost just spoiled the book. I almost just spoiled the book, but I kept it in. Grace, congratulate me. I almost just spoiled a book. I was literally about to say it, and then I went, nope.
okay.
I went, nope. I X marked it out. But
Thank you for that. But yeah, and it's that moment that they realize, like, they both have different turning points, right? But that one was like it for him. And they go back to this summer later on of saying like things changed after that. They were a little more distant, they didn't talk so much, broke up with Sarah and everything, right? And then later on, you mentioned how like, oh, you're so glad that he didn't propose to her.
yeah.
When he mentioned the ring, that it was like this yellow vintage ring.
I definitely thought about Poppy. I thought that's the perfect ring for Poppy. That's what I was thinking too.
He saw that ring and he's just like, wow, that would be an amazing engagement ring
For Poppy.
But what his mind did not say was for Poppy. It was the perfect engagement ring, not for Sarah.
For Poppy.
Poppy.
And like when I read that, I was like, it's like this antique ring. She loves like antique clothing. And I'm like, he subconsciously knew. He subconsciously was preparing to marry Poppy. He got a vasectomy so he wouldn't get anybody else pregnant. He bought a
I mean,
ring.
yeah, and like first of all, the vasectomy is kind of,
He's kind of
extreme.
hot.
Yeah, it's
It's
kind
kind of
of
hot where he's like when she was like, we don't have a condom, he's like, I got a vasectomy, and she was like, what? And he's like, yeah, after you almost got pregnant, I got a vasectomy. And she's just like, I
what?
found that so hot where it's like he knew how much he loved her and that he didn't want to have children with anybody else unless it was her.
And like, you could be like, this is a fantasy. This is a fiction book, right?
Yeah.
And you could easily be like, well, he could have just not had sex with anybody. But it's like
But like,
he was
is
in
that reality?
denial. He was in denial about,
Yeah.
those feelings and coming to cross that bridge.
Yeah.
So it was so in character with him going like the ultimate extreme, you know?
Yeah. And it's like, and it was really hot where I was just like, oh, so like their first time, they didn't have any protection or any. Well, I guess she was on birth control and he had a vasectomy, so you can always have the most protection. But it was just kind of like hot, where it's like it's that like, okay, this is gonna sound so wrong. It's gonna sound so wrong when I'm gonna say this, but he was saving himself for her. Like, I know it sounds wrong, but like what I mean is like he was saving like his ability to have children and waiting for Poppy, because that's why he did it.
He was saving his future for her.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to like say like he was saving his juices for her.
I got you,
That's
girl.
so
I got you.
weird.
But really quickly, I kind of want to touch into their vacation to Louisiana.
Oh yes.
And their dancing, right? And Alex is not like PDA. And dancing in the middle of the street, in
The
the
fact
middle,
that he was holding her hand.
holding her hand, holding her close, they felt it there. They felt it.
That's when she said like it was in Louisiana that she was like, I'm in love with
She
you.
fell in love with him. And then there's this like part that she starts talking,
Paige.
and shit, I can't find it. Oh, it's right here. They're dancing to Brown Eyed Girl,
Paige.
right? 212, sorry. 212.
Oh, I was almost there.
It goes, I'll just read this little excerpt. It goes, in the magic of the city and its music and smells and glimmering lights, I felt something I'd never felt with him before. Scarier than that, I'd known from the way Alex looked into my eyes, smoothed his hand down my arm, eased his cheek against mine, that he felt it too. But now, dancing to Brown Eyed Girl, the heat has gone out of his touch, and I'm happy because I never want to lose this. I would rather have one tiny sliver of him forever than have all of him for just a moment and know I'd have to relinquish all of it when we were through. I could never lose Alex. I couldn't. And so this is good. This is peaceful. This peaceful sparkless dance. This sparkless trip. And this is after the whole pregnancy scare, right?
No, it's before. It's 6 years ago.
Oh, it is?
Pregnancy scare was, I thought, like 4 years.
Oh, right. This is after that other trip where this is remembering the New Orleans trip when they were dancing, and this
Yeah.
is in Vail. This
Yeah.
specific trip was in Vail.
Yeah.
And this is after, like, Sarah had like they had almost crossed the boundary again, right? That little part where she's just like, I was afraid to, like, we knew that it was there, but she knew that if she took a piece of him and they had a relationship
And it ended. It's that
they would not be able to go back to being
it
friends.
would have been the right person, the wrong moment trope.
Literally, because
the fact that they waited is better.
Because it's literally that feeling of like, you know that you're perfect for somebody, but it's figuring out if you're perfect as friends or if you're perfect as lovers. And if you once you cross into lovers, you can't go back to being perfect as friends the same way. And she knew that if they went there, it would never be the same if they didn't make it. And that fear is always like, we keep going back to it. It's that fear that stops them.
Yeah.
It's
that classic friends to lovers where it's like that fear of like, if I take this all now, will I have any left later? It's that like it's that survival thing. It's like, I'm not going to take the whole pie now and not have any, save some for later. I'm going to take a little bit here, a little bit there, and make it last forever.
Yeah.
Wow.
It sucks. Really quickly, can we talk about like we talked about like them taking care of each other?
Yeah.
The sprained ankle on the mountain. Oh my gosh. I was like,
that was so cute.
Crying. I'm gonna share a quick story. So gosh, I hate that it's always with my ex.
Is it this ex?
Yes, it is. He's the only one I have so many stories with.
Well, I'm gonna banish him. I'm gonna banish any stories from him. Once we hit the 1-year mark on the podcast, never talk about him again.
No. It's because there's so many good stories in there. It's like 10 relationships in one. Okay. That's true. So my ex and I, we were trying the whole let's be friends thing, and we did do pretty well. And one day he was joking around with me as I was leaving work, and he picks me up. And remember, I'm a thicker girl. So you can imagine this dude is also very big and very strong. He lifts me up, throws me over his shoulder, right? And I'm giggling and laughing, and a couple of coworkers are there and laughing. And it's so cute, right? First of all, I'm amazed that he can pick me up because, that's kind of sexy. And then he puts me down, but my dumbass does not prepare my feet for the landing. And so when he puts me down, I roll my right ankle and sprain it hard. Like I thought I heard a crack. And I'm like, oh, no. And I'm grabbing onto him, and he's just like, whoa. And then he realizes I'm in pain. And then I'm sitting down and I'm crying. I'm like bawling my eyes out. And then he like immediately jumps into like protective mode. And he's just like, okay, I need ice, I need this. And he starts taking care of me. And he's just like, it's okay, don't cry. Like, I know it hurts. And I'm crying because, tears can't stop once they're going. And I start laughing because like she went into hysterics too. And it was so funny because I'm just like, oh, I've been there. And I start laughing, and I end up calling my mom to come pick me up to take me to the hospital. And as she's coming, he's just like, I'm so sorry. And he's just like, it's okay. And he's just looking at me with these eyes that shows me that he's really so sorry about it. And Maggie's gonna get mad at me for this. He carries me, lifts me up and carries me and puts me in the car, and then like straps me in. Like he takes the seatbelt and he buckles me in. And my mom like walks around to go to the driver's seat. And while she's walking around, he like leans in and he kissed me. He's like, I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I'm just like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll be fine. And whatever. And I'll end it right there. That story right there.
For our audio listeners, I'm making a disgusting
It was a cute story. You can't deny that it wasn't a cute story. If it was someone else, you'd be like, yeah, that was cute. Come on.
Yeah, but it's not with anybody else. It's with him, so I know it's gross.
He did have cute moments. You can't knock the guy for not having those moments. They were just far and few in between. So when Alex carries her and he's just like, look, I'm going to carry you down. This is what we're going to do. And she's like, okay. And he carries her down the mountain. And you know what movie ran through my head? Holes.
Why?
Because it's the part where, he's carrying Zero up the mountain to drink the water.
That's true.
Come on. It was kind of funny, but more romantic, obviously. But that was like a really cute moment that I knew I had to like put in there. moving forward, we see how also they meet each other's families, right?
Okay. When her mother gives her a box of condoms.
Oh my gosh,
The secondhand embarrassment I felt. I'm just like, because of course, what parent would think that two kids going on vacation alone together, to a guy and
And this wasn't the first time. It was not the first time.
And like, what parent would be like, oh, they're not having sex?
Yeah, that's not.
The fact that she gave them like a big box of condoms too, and Poppy's just like, oh my god, mom, no! And then she like makes fun of it in front of Alex. But like this secondhand embarrassment I got for him.
Oh my gosh, Alex died right there, and his body just
died of embarrassment. Like he
and
I like how we're treating it like he's a real person.
I know, because like Alex was like literally like he's terrified, like uncomfortable around her dad, right? He doesn't know how to be. And with that, he was like,
he's like, shit, fuck, I don't know what to do.
Like, oh my gosh, that was just so funny. I love the interactions with the family because like you see, like your family really can tell who is meant for you and who's not.
Yeah.
Like that's my number one thing. I always bring potential, like if he's met my criteria for a potential person that I'm dating, he has to come around my brother and my family and my mom. Like my mom can like, you know, that sound of like, you know, like snake, that sound, that TikTok sound. My mom can spot a snake a mile away. She definitely told me about that one ex, and the one before that. She got it, but you know, yes, and your parents can always see who is really there.
Yeah, my mom with my like my ex, one of my exes, they're like, yeah, we knew it wasn't gonna last, and she literally should have told me, she's like, you're too ambitious compared to him.
Yeah,
she was like, you have more ambition than he does, and it wouldn't have lasted.
Yeah, and the fact that both of their families knew that the other person was going to be around for the long run. Like Betty, his grandmother, when she brought over I think Guillermo home, right? For like the dad's
no, I thought she brought Trey home.
I think she brought Guillermo because he had like
because he was the chef. Yeah. And it was kind of awkward and stuff.
Yeah. And first of all, the way he saw her family, he did not pass the vibe check.
Yeah, no,
he did not pass the vibe check. And the way that Betty was just like, oh, do you love him? And she was just like, yeah, I do. And then she's just like, oh, okay. And then she straight up says, do you love him like you love Alex?
And she's like, I can't ever love anybody like I love Alex. And that's how you know. And I think that's why he would have never ended up, even if like they never told each other. That's why I think they would have ended up both alone. Is because he would have like Alex would have thought about that too, where he would have never felt that way for Sarah. But also Alex was looking for a stable life, and I think that's why Alex, maybe he wouldn't fully connect with Sarah, but he was willing to suffer.
Settle.
He's willing to settle. That's a good way to say it.
He settled big time for that. And I bet you if Betty had stuck around a little bit longer,
she would have whooped that boy. She would have like, the fuck are you doing with Sarah?
She would have gotten so mad at him. But yeah. All right. Moving forward.
To them finally come back. They come so Poppy plans this day. She needs this vacation to go back to being perfect. So like they go to the zoo, everything goes wrong. The directions go wrong, the zoo goes wrong. Alex gets like really hot, and they make it back to the pool, and they're gonna go swimming. Pool's empty. A kid pooped in the pool. they're like, fuck this, and they go to the room. It's so hot, the AC is broken, and
they're getting frustrated with each
so
other.
frustrated with each other. And so Poppy takes scissors and goes to the she goes
Plastic tarp.
at the plastic tarp around the balcony and stuff, and she's like getting mad and stuff, and then they hear the rain and they go out into the rain, and it's raining, and they're laughing at each other, and they meet each other's eyes, and then it's a flashback to
the time where she gets sick and he's taking care of her.
That's the flashback?
Yeah.
I thought it was to Tuscany. No, it wasn't. It was that flashback. Yeah.
It was the flashback of him leaving and he did not go to an all expense trip.
Yeah.
He took half the leg of the plane to go to her.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when they're cuddling. And that's the first time that they get like physical reactions of each other. And when they're cuddling in bed, and then like she pulls him close, and then he grabs her leg and puts it over him. And he's just like holding her leg, her thigh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa. And that's why, and he's like, oh, are you comfortable?
Yeah.
And I'm like, if y'all did not, and that's why that's another scene that I wanted in his POV, because I'm like, I need to know what he's thinking.
Yeah.
And because she was thinking like, if I wasn't sick right now, I'd jump his bones.
Yeah.
And later on, we find out that he said the same thing.
Yeah. So kind of to go back to, we get there, we've kind of talked about her being sick and stuff and that whole thing. But when they finally, so it's chapter 26, it starts on page 253, and so they kind of like are looking at each other, and they finally kiss and stuff, and you know they're getting to the deed and stuff, and I just have to point out a couple things that Alex says.
Okay, because man,
so page 256 near the bottom, Alex, I plead, nodding my hands into his hair. Stop making me wait for you. Stop being impatient, he teases. I've waited 12 years. I want this to last. A shiver ran down my spine. I arch into him. Finally, he crawls up the length of me, hairs tangling into my hair, roaming over my skin, and he slowly pushes into me. We find our rhythm together, and it feels so good, so electric. It's so right that I can't believe all the time we wasted not doing this. 12 years of subpar lovemaking when all along this is how it's supposed to be. God, how are you so good at this, I say. His laugh grates against my ears, and he kisses behind it. Because I know you, he says tenderly, and I remember what you sound like when you like something. Oh my god! Oh my god!
I can't.
You know, I love a good dirty talker. But Alex is this sweet. Are you writing down this scene? To make a TikTok about it?
Yep.
Better give me inspiration credit.
Because this scene, and like, you know, this is a contemporary romance, so it's not super heavy on the spice, but like we said earlier in the podcast, it's like it's a relational book, so it's like the whole buildup of them, it's the feeling of them actually being there. It's not like the actual deed, but it's just like that, here we are. It's all been all of this. And you know what kind of feeling I get from this, especially with the rain and everything? The Notebook.
Never seen.
That's exactly what I think about. The kissing in the rain. I waited for you. I wrote you every day for a year. It's not over. It still isn't over. That whole montage is literally that, of them talking and like getting through that, and like the rain and everything, right? I've waited for this for so long. I've wanted you for all of this, and all the things that he starts saying, you know, and then the way that she just says, I love you. And he straight up says like, I love you. And
okay, and we see like, oh, and then they go to like the next morning, they kind of like wake up and they're like, oh, okay. And well, actually it's that night where after they're like done, the owner comes and he's like, well, I'm sorry, I'm gonna refund you for your whole trip. And so they go to a hotel room, and they go to the hotel, and they get 2 beds now, and we kind of see where Poppy's like, do I go lay with him or do I lay by myself? And she kind of makes that decision where she goes and lays down by herself. And it's kind of at that point where I was like, oh, she still hasn't fully chosen him yet. And that's when I was like, so she's still scared. And so they're not going to fully commit together. It's too early for them not to have some tension.
Yeah.
And then we see the next day they go to the wedding celebrations and we see her interacting with his family and his brothers. And I love that she is like so friendly with his brothers and like they get along as well.
I
'Cause I think
mean,
that's
known the family for like 12 years.
yeah, and I think that's so cute that like
Yeah.
their wedding and stuff and that like but like I also kind of when she kind of stands up to his dad.
Oh, whoa! We're jumping a little too far. I want to go into the bachelor party because David, you messy. David, you are messy. Why the hell would you tell clearly when Poppy and your brother are starting to date? Yes, I'm talking to David right now and scolding him. You clearly see that they're holding hands. You clearly see that there's something there, right? And you even ask, right? And then you go ahead and bring up his ex-girlfriend and the fact that he was going to propose to her.
Yeah, that was a little messy. I was just like, and that freaks Poppy out because that I think was also the catalyst, like her like choosing like not to sleep in the bed where she was just kind of still like having doubts. That was the ultimate thing where she was like,
I'm not what he wants. I'm
like,
not everything that, and she loves him so much. It's like that thing of like, you love somebody so much, you'll let them go and have everything that they want.
Because she realized, she was like, I've been holding him back. It's kind of the thing when you're like the girl best friend and you realize like you've been holding your best friend back from being happy. And like of course we know that he wasn't happy and that he never really was happy with Sarah.
But that thought, that thought process is there.
What puts all the doubt in her mind where she's just like, I'm not what he wanted really. And I've come between this one thing that he's wanted the most is a family, a marriage, and I can't give that to him. Because let's be honest, Poppy isn't this like a suburb person who is gonna be like Sarah. She's not Sarah. She's quite literally the opposite. And that makes her doubt. And that leaves, and that David saying that was such a shitty thing. And I honestly think she should have talked about that. She should have told like Alex, like, this is the reason why, because David did mention it. Like, I honestly would have thrown David under the bus a little. Like, he mentioned it to me, so of course I'm gonna think about it.
Yeah, and it's not like, it's not like David like intentionally threw a wrench into it. Like he was just speaking about concern for his brother. He didn't do it to like be messy. He was actually like, he was talking to someone who also cares about his brother deeply and who has known him a long time, And so it wasn't like he was doing it intentionally, but it did happen. And then they end up having this whole argument about it, right? And it's just, it just goes to shit. And then you hear them arguing and
but I feel for Alex in this situation where he's putting himself out on the line and Poppy isn't ready yet. And this is such a common thing where like Poppy wasn't ready to fully commit to him yet. Like, yes, she loved him unconditionally, but she was not happy enough in her own life with what she was doing to be fully happy with him. And it would be unfair to him if she just went into the relationship and kind of used him as like that napkin of like wiping away all the dirt and stuff in her life. And he talks about that, and I think that's very important.
he goes into like this whole like thing because she's just page 301. And she's just like, why did she break up with you? Why did Sarah break up with you? And then like he goes on to this whole thing, and he's like, I'm kind of skimming through it, but she broke up with me before we went to San Biel. And then all he could think was that first glimpse of them meeting at that bar was that trip, San Biel. And he's like, I'm hoping that that Poppy doesn't think I'm boring too. And he just started worrying, and he realized that nothing matters when he's with Poppy, and that if Sarah and him got back together, things would have been so much different, so much better. But it wasn't, because she didn't want to go to Tuscany on that couple's trip, and she had to go. But he thought like, if they can be friends, then it'll be fine. And that's not what it happened. And then the whole pregnancy scare thing, and he literally goes, then you thought you were pregnant, and it scared me so much. I got a fucking vasectomy, and it didn't even occur to me to ask Sarah what she thought. Like, we talked about this, right? And then we go into the engagement ring, a yellow gold Art Deco thing with a pearl. And he knew that he was buying it for Poppy, like we said, right? And we have this whole thing of him talking, and then he says, I scared myself so much that I couldn't tell you what happened. It was terrifying to realize how much I love you. And then you and Trey broke up, and God, Poppy, of course, all of it was because of you. Everything is because of you. Everything. It's not something you've done to me. I kept hoping things would change for me, but they never have. And I doubted myself for a long time before I ended things, because I did love her. I wanted to make it work because she was amazing. We were good together, and we want all the same things. And I love her, and the way it feels so easy, clear, understanding, and manageable, right? And it's kind of that thing of like choosing. It's not you choosing a person. When they were talking about The Bachelor, it's not you just choosing a person. It's you choosing a life, a path. If he stuck with Sarah, his life would be very mundane and very stagnant. He would get married, live in that town, and that would be it, right? He would have no life, no passion in his life, nothing to really sustain him. He would be unhappy. And if he chose Poppy, it was unsure, and he didn't know where it was going, but he knew that he loved her through everything, and he loved her, all of her, everything about her, all her flaws, everything that made her her, all the things he didn't like about her. He loved her in everything. And that was like, his whole talk about that was like so beautiful to me, because yeah, you wouldn't want to hear somebody confessing their love to you while also mentioning that they love somebody else. But that's the reality. You don't just love one person and then that's it.
Yeah.
It's a different type of love for the different type of people, and
Yeah.
you're deciding on how you want your life to go forward. And
he has been scared the whole relationship with Poppy, that like, and I think it goes down to like him never having like his mother and stuff to help. Like he never had that reassuring love in his life. Like he was the adult kind of. And I felt for him. Like I really felt for him. Like, yeah, we got this from Poppy's POV. So and I felt like, I was like, Poppy, you're kind of shitty. Like you still won't choose him, and you are leading him on. So when he finally was like, yes, I felt really bad when he was like, I don't think we should be talking for a while. But I was like, good. I was like, good, because you need that separation for Poppy to realize that I actually do want him.
At the airport when they're saying bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and it like broke me a little bit. I started crying. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I cried a lot during this book.
So for our YouTube listeners, we're going to have a special sneak peek at the very end. We're going to show you our recording of our FaceTime call for the specific scene that we'll talk about later, but stay tuned, our YouTube listeners.
Yeah. So this airport scene, I cried a lot, because it was just like, it's that thing of like, yes, they had this World War romance, right? And on this vacation, they finally culminated all of their feelings over these past years. But it's like, okay, now the logistics of the relationship, what's going to happen? How do we make this work? It's not like we live right down the street from each other. It's not like, everything can just go in. It's very different. It's very adult and very mature, right? And we see him, he's like, I was ready to jump in all the way, and you weren't. And the line that gets me from him is just like, I knew, and I knew that I meant it, and it wasn't just like, sheesh, what does he say? I posted a TikTok on this literally like 2 minutes ago. Sheesh, where is it? Oh my God.
I meant it. I knew I meant it. It wasn't an impulse. I knew for years I loved you, Poppy.
Oh, okay. It's on page 316 for those of you who want to mark that in. He says, I meant it. I knew I meant it. It wasn't an impulse. I knew for years that I loved you, and I thought about it from every single angle and knew I wanted what I wanted before I ever kissed you. We went 2 years without talking, and I thought about you every day, and I gave you the space I thought you wanted. And that whole time I asked myself what I'd be willing to do to give up if you decided you wanted to be with me too. I spent the whole time alternating between trying to move on and let you go so you could be happy, and looking at job postings and apartments near you just in case. And she's like, I had no idea. Like, no shit, you had no idea. And everything that he says in this scene is just like you putting your heart out there, waiting for somebody to jump in with you. It's like when you're a kid and you're like standing on the ledge of a pool, and your friend is there with you, and like, we're gonna jump on the count of 3 because we both want to, we're both ready, let's jump on the count of 3. And then you jump and you feel their fingers slip from your hand, and you know that they want to go too, but they're too scared to jump, and you like turn back looking at them, and that sense of betrayal as you're hitting the water and they're still standing on the ledge. That's literally this feeling. Of course, it's very childish, but that's what it feels like to him. He was ready to take the leap forward, and she was not. And then they go off for another 2 weeks, not talking, giving her the space to figure it out.
He gave her the space, and she went to therapy, which I think was it's very interesting. I think that was good. I think that was interesting, where it's like, that's a good, healthy decision to make. It's like she's recognizing that, like, I need help. I need help sorting this out. And so she goes to seek a therapist. Like, a therapist doesn't just have to be for, like, if you have mental health issues. It can be for the everyday person, where it's like, I need help understanding this situation, and I need help analyzing my own feelings. And that's what a therapist is for. And so I think I liked how this was so normal for her to go to see a therapist, and him to see a therapist too. They both went to see therapists. And then the houseplant stuff was so cute.
Okay. Like, that whole scene, right, of her finally deciding.
So she goes, she's been in therapy, she's 2 weeks, and she sees her friend from she sees her bully from middle school in New York on a subway, and their whole interaction, it clicks with her. Grace kind of talks about this in our video when but like, it hits her that just because he's living in this Ohio town, that doesn't mean he's not having a fulfilling life. That just because he's not in the high rise of New York doesn't mean that he doesn't love his life and that he can't have fun. And she realizes that, like, yes,
it's not really about where you are. It's kind
about
of
who you're with.
Yeah.
And she realizes that.
Yeah. And she finally decides, like, she was holding on to this idea that she had of life, and she realized that doesn't mean anything. And of course, it was kind of like the last little tick on the scale. It was all of these things building up that made her finally realize this is what life is actually about. And when we finally see what happened in Croatia, we keep talking about that Croatia trip throughout everything. And when we finally figure out that it was them kissing, and Alex wanting to take the step forward, but not wanting it like this, wanting it to be more, and her realizing all of those missed opportunities, those second glances, those moments where I thought it was something was not what he thought. And then all of this is coming together, and then just, you know what? I'm going to go home. And she takes that flight home, And that's literally where Maggie was just like, okay, I need you to FaceTime me while you read this scene. She's like, I need you to FaceTime me. Like,
kind of to go off that when you were talking about like not everything he felt was what I felt. It's on page, there's a similar quote on page 155. It's possible that all those little moments that meant so much to me never meant quite the same to him. And that's like the constant scare that they both have. Um
yeah.
I think also one of the most important things when she's like going through this like revelationist stuff is she's like, it hurts to want it all. So many things that coexist within the same life. And she's kind of like thinking about like, oh, you can't really have it all and stuff like that. Um and like when she goes back home and she goes there and she walks up to the
school
to walk, the one place she hates the most. She hated going to school, and a lot of people do hated going to high school. Like high school is like their worst experience, and that's very like it's a very common thing to happen. And the fact that she went back there and then saw Sarah,
oh my gosh,
of all, Grace's reaction.
oh, I did not like Sarah at all. But you know, I also feel for Sarah, but at the same time, I was just not for the plot point that we're trying to get to.
But it's also Sarah called Alex boring, so I don't know how bad I feel for her.
Yeah, it's kind of like, girl, you didn't want him to begin with, so back up, right? Yeah. So then we have the home thing with Sarah, and then Sarah does the right thing and lets her know he's probably at the bar. And then she goes, and then I told Maggie, like, we have it again. Like, that's how the book started, with her walking into the bar
and seeing him reading
on him and describing him to a T. And then here we are again at the ending of the book, and here she is just zeroing in him at the bar. And then she walks up to him, and like, I gotta say, like, that scene played out to me like a movie. Like, you know, the girl walking into the bar, they're looking at each other and they go, hi. And then there's other people there like, oh, who's this? And then he's just like, oh, this is hi. Like, he is not able to comprehend that she's actually there. And her whole discussion, it just
like I knew when she was rambling and he wasn't saying anything, and then she literally, I'm gonna pull it up, and it's the quote, Poppy, my name never sounded quite so long or miserable. That's when I knew. I was like, fuck,
this is not gonna end well.
Like, fuck, this isn't gonna end right. I literally thought in this moment, I was like, they're not gonna end up together. I was like, they're not ending up together.
I got scared because I was just like, please don't tell me this is one of those books of just like where you have two people. Like, I did not want them to La La Land me, of the couple not ending up together and just going off on their own ways and being
okay
separate.
I want that sometimes, but this book I was like, no. And then goes, and then there's this paragraph on 351. This was the scene that I wanted, that Grace is going to react to, but it's like, his eyes drop, his teeth worrying over his bottom lip. I don't want you to give up anything, he says. I want us to just make sense. And we don't, Poppy. I can't watch it fall apart again.
Broke my heart.
But you feel for him because it hasn't just happened once. It's happened twice now, where if you think about it, he's been rejected by Poppy. Like, if you really think about it, she kind of rejected him when she brushed it off the first time. And then she's not fully committing to him the second time. And he's like, I can't. And that's a very adult thing. It's like, I can't put myself through that again. And you feel for him.
Yeah. And it was that moment of just like, you know, trying to, like, it could have gone two ways, right? You know, we don't want them to give up each other because we both know, like, we know that they both have things that they want in life, and they love each other so much that they cannot see the other person living their life to their fullest potential. And they have not seen a way where it works with the two of them living their best lives together. they love each other so much, but how can both of their different lifestyles mesh well together? And they haven't yet realized that both of their lifestyles are capable of being together because they haven't been around each other for the past 2 years, they don't know where the other person is and all of these things. I cried. I
know. We're going to see the reaction at the end. But so we see this where he's like, we can't, like, no. And she's like,
okay.
And she leaves and she makes it to the parking lot and she starts sobbing and she's running to her car. She's trying to run away from him. And we hear him calling her name and him running towards her. And I wanted to read this. This is page 354. And it's talking about her. She's blinking back her tears and he's standing in front of her and he's like, he looks at me for a long moment, then gives the smallest shake of his head. No. I know if I got on a plane with you back to New York, I would be so fucking happy. For as long as you'd have me, I'd be happy. Again, that kaleidoscope swirl of colors blurs my vision. I blink back tears. And I want that so badly. I do regret every chance I missed to tell you how I felt. All the times I convinced myself I'd lose you if you really knew, or that we were too different. I wanted to just be happy with you, but I'm afraid of what comes after. His voice cracks. I'm afraid of you realizing I bore you, or meeting someone else, or being unhappy and staying, and his voice catches. I'm afraid of loving you for our entire lives and then having to say goodbye. I'm afraid of you dying and the world feeling useless. I'm afraid I won't be able to keep getting out of bed if you're gone. And if we had kids, they'd have the horrible lives where their amazing mom is gone and their dad can't look at them.
I got you.
I can read. His hand passes over his eyes, catching some of the moisture there. Alex, I whisper. I don't know how to comfort him. I can't take any of his past pain away or promise it won't happen again. All I can do is tell them the truth, as I've seen it, as I know it. You already went through that. You lost someone you loved, and you kept getting out of bed. You were there for the people in life, and you loved them, and they loved you back. You got all of that in your life still. None of that went away. It didn't end because you lost one person. I know, he says. I'm just... His voice draws taut. His huge shoulders shrug. Scared.
Okay, because like this is like the truest thing ever. Like this is the most realistic thing I've ever like read, because you could love someone so much, and like I think a lot of people realize that, you know, they don't think about mortality like that. You know, they don't think about like life being so finite, and people who are able to see past that, like me, I think about that often. Like every time I meet somebody, I think about like what the end of our relationship would look like. How would it close off? How would it feel if they passed away, or if I passed away? How would it, like, I think about that often. And for him to kind of go into that conversation, it's just like, you could love somebody so much, and because he saw his dad go through it,
he loved her so much that he couldn't bear the idea of being with her and losing her, like really losing her and never seeing her ever again. The fact that like that he projected what happened with his mom onto her and like shows how insecure he was about like the idea of being with somebody else truly that he loved.
He could not see,
because he didn't have this about Sarah, but it was like Poppy, and he was like the person that I've loved the longest, that he literally, if she died, he wouldn't know how he would continue.
Like, that's some real deep.
That's so hard hitting, and it's not even that sad. Like, it's not even that sad.
It's not that sad, but it is sad because it's just like, to have somebody love you so much that they see a whole life with you to the point where your life would be ending. Like, it's not just like, oh, if we break up, it's like, I am never letting you go until you are taken from me. And when you are taken from me, I don't know how. Like, yeah, we read about all of these declarations of love and like these couples that will live on for forever in fantasy books. And, you know, we get like the happily ever after, but the happily ever after will end. And this is the first time I've read a book where it's just like, that's a reality that I'm going to have to realize, and I'm going to have to go through it. And I am terrified to go through it alone. And I don't know if I can allow myself to love you this much. But,
and like, we see, oh, we're almost done. I'm gonna read this last chapter. It's the very last chapter. It's not the epilogue. Right before the epilogue, 356, it says, his eyes slit open, and the flutter in my chest is so strong it almost hurts. I love him so much. I love him more than I did yesterday. And I already know tomorrow I'll love him even more, because every piece of him he gives is another to fall in love with.
and that's like so true. And that's, look, let me drop some knowledge here real quick. A lot of people who, you know, I'm a big marriage person, you know. I definitely want to get married and all of that. And a lot of people who end up thinking, like, when they think about marriage, it's like, oh, marriages don't last, they'll break up, they'll get divorced, like it doesn't make sense. And there's couples who have been together for years and years and they haven't been married, but they're still together, whatever, right? The thing about marriage is it's a partnership. You were equally yoked, you were both putting it in, you are both actively learning about each other. It's not so much as like, oh yeah, we're dating, we learned everything about each other and that's it, and now we're together forever. That's not what it is. You were actively learning more about each other to the point where love can only go so far. You love somebody, yes, you love them, and yes, that's why you'll get together and that's why you'll commit to another. But at a certain point, love is not the only thing keeping you together. Love is a big foundation of why you're together, but it's not the only thing. It's not what's going to build the house, right? It's your foundation, but it's not going to build the house. And then after that comes friendship. After that comes work ethic together. After that comes a partnership that you grow together. Your kids are thrown in there with you. The experiences that you get as you're a married couple, those things create bonds that like 35 years down the line, it's like, yes, I love this person, but this person is not just somebody I love. This person is my companion. This person is my partner. This person is every bit of me that I could not see myself without. They have become every part of your life. And true marriages that last, that are founded on all of these other things, they fall in love with each other every single day because they're learning so much more about each other. And it's not so much like, oh, last week she liked caramel flavored creamer. This week she likes white chocolate caramel creamer or whatever, or she changed her coffee order, or she changed her breakfast order. It's not that. It's, yes, those little things, but it's in the way that she gets frustrated. It's in the way that she adapts. It's in the way that she learns how to move forward. It's in the way that she plans ahead, or how she doesn't like to clean when she gets tired. It's all of these things that build a foundational relationship and a long-standing marriage that end up being the most successful ones. And Alex and Poppy, I feel like, have that ability to continuously learn about each other, to continuously see past each other's flaws, and to know that they have been at a lowest and they're still able to climb out of it because of everything else, not just love.
Yeah. And kind of to like finish the book and then we'll wrap it up. We see there's one last quote that I want to say that I think really hits the mark on this book. And it's in the epilogue, and they're talking about how they're both exploring New York together like tourists. And there's a quote at the end of page 357, and it says, I didn't know regular life could feel like this. Like a vacation you don't have to go home from. And I think that's very important. It's the idea of like that marriage and being with somebody where it doesn't feel like it feels like a vacation, like you're having the time of your lives together. And
Yeah.
it's not some short thing that's you'll go back to normal. It's your everyday fulfilling life.
Yeah.
So I loved this book.
I did.
I have been reading a lot of heavy smut romance, and this was just such a good feel good book.
Oh yeah.
It's a good refresher.
I have a question for you. It's one of the questions in the reader's guide.
Is it number 10?
The last one. Do you think that they'll last?
Yeah.
You do?
What do you think?
I think they will. This is how I think it's gonna go. I think that it's gonna last for a while. I think they're gonna break up, and then I think they're gonna get back together.
Do you think she'd make a second book?
No, it doesn't need one because they will end together. But I think that they will have some fights where they separate, but they don't. It's like those kind of breakups where we're broken up, but we're not really broken up.
It's that like I need a break. It's not a breakup. It's like we need to reconvene.
Yeah, and I feel like they'll go through that because I think they'll forget a little bit, and those previous doubts that they had at the beginning will kind of creep back in, but then they'll come back and they'll be way stronger, and they'll have a whole bunch of grandbabies and stuff like that. I think they'll last after a quick.
This book makes me want to read her other book, Beach Read, which I have, because I have on audiobook through my library. So I think I'm going to read that maybe next week because I have a little bit of contemporary romances that I'm trying to read in July as well. So this was like one of them. So
for sure, I'm definitely going to read this. So what did you rate this?
I'm gonna bring up my Goodreads. I'm gonna read. I like doing this where I read my Goodreads because immediately when I finished this, I filled out my Goodreads review for it because I was like, I need to get my thoughts out. And I think I gave this a 4 out of 5. And I don't even have my review. I thought I made a review for this. Maybe it's see all my activity for this book. Oh, it didn't even tell me. Oh. Well, I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Kinds of updates on my Goodreads. So if you follow my Goodreads, you'll see any book that I'm reading, you'll see updates as I'm doing it. You can go back and see all of my reading updates for People We Meet on Vacation and the feelings. I'll probably make like a highlight story on my Instagram with my reactions for this book, just so people could see it for like a week, and then take it down because nobody needs to see that. So you 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Here, I did it. I actually did it in my little like note journal thingy. So I have my little thingy that's like a little review journal for books, and so I just like my overall review comments. This book was a great refreshing read. It was a romantic book that read more like a regular fiction book. The imagery was a key point in this book, and I think that the audiobook really accentuated the story and the ability to read this story. And I finished it in like 6 hours. Some of the quotes, I just wanted to highlight 4 quotes that really stood out to me. So first one is page 155, and it says, "It's possible that all those little moments that meant so much to me never meant quite the same to him." Second quote is from page 280. "You can love someone and still know that the future you'd have with them wouldn't work for you." Page 285. "It hurts to want it all. So many things that coexist within the same life." And then finally, 357, the one quote, "I didn't know regular life could feel like this, like a vacation you don't have to go home from." Those are my top 4 quotes from this book. And
had a lot of good quotes.
It really did. And it made me want to read Beach Read because I heard Beach Read is really good as well.
This book made me want to actually write in my book and annotate it.
I literally said you should annotate. I literally was like, annotate that bitch.
No, but then like towards the end, I was just like, I was speeding through that. I couldn't stop.
That's true.
And then yeah. Okay, really quick. I rated it a 5 out of 5 because one, it made me cry. It made me contemplate life. It made me feel so many things. I won't read the whole review, but I will read this one little part. It's about finding your home, finding what you're willing to truly go after. It feels like a vacation gone horribly wrong, and yet you don't think about how bad. You only laugh at every hiccup along the way to realize that you've had the most amazing time of your life. That you loved every moment because those hiccups and moments of frustration were truly you, and the other person saw you and still loved you and being with you. So, yeah, there you go. So we're gonna end our podcast here. This one is a very, very long episode. We are sorry, but
Yeah, this is 2.5 hours. Oh my
what's
gosh.
new? What's new, guys?
That's how you
Um,
know we liked the book.
that's how you know. That's how you know. So again, for our podcast listeners, thank you guys for listening for this long. If you want to check out this cute little sneak peek of me crying my eyes out, make sure to head over to YouTube and watch this next clip that happens to be a FaceTime call between me and Maggie during that last
Yes.
scene at the bar.
Special announcements. So next week's episode, we are going to be talking about Neon Gods by Katie Robert, and we will be having a special guest. I'm not going to say who it is yet, but we will. Yes, we will. We will be having a special book talker friend of ours.
Oh, I totally forgot, but yeah, I remember.
Anyways, so I'm just gonna give y'all a quick update. Within the next week, we're gonna have Neon Gods, and then the week after, we're hopefully gonna talk about Twisted Love by Anna, and we're hopefully gonna have her on. So keep a lookout for that. Get reading, and any updates that you want to say?
Yes, I do. We are finalizing our enamel pins that we are going to put up for pre-order, most likely this upcoming week. So I'm just finalizing some color samples that I want to do for our enamel pin. We will post it on our Etsy shop for pre-order.
Yes. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting a pre-order time for about 2 weeks, so that we can get people ordering. We'll post everywhere. We'll post photos of it. You'll see it on the Etsy shop. We'll link it. We're going to link it on our personal accounts. We're going to link it on the podcast stuff. But we will have a pre-order. We're gonna have a pre-order incentive, and we're gonna have a pre-order, like the pre-order link. So when you pre-order it, there'll be a special incentive. We're not gonna announce it yet, but we just wanted to see how many of our listeners and like our personal following want to buy these enamel pins, and so we're gauging that by pre-ordering and see how many people would be interested in the shop and our pins that we're going to be making. But I'm very excited for our first round of pins we're going to have.
I am too. I am too. This one came out really, really well. It came to me in the idea behind the pin definitely came from Maggie, and then the way that the enamel kind of transformed into like
we had like 2 pins. We had the one pin, and then we transformed it into another pin as well.
And that other one, it looks really, really good. I'm really excited for it. If you haven't followed our Instagram, make sure you guys do, because that's where we're going to be doing a lot of polls and updates and little sneak peeks for our enamel pin. So if you want to see what it looks like before you pre-order it, make sure you look up on there. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for listening. Next week we'll have Neon Gods, so read up on that. Read up on Twisted Love. I'll have a link both down below where you can get a copy if you want. Anything else to add? No, congratulations, Grace, on hitting your 1-year anniversary on Bookstagram.
Oh yeah, thanks guys. It's been my 1-year anniversary. It's also been my 1-year anniversary on Book Talk, and
our 1-year
friend anniversary.
Like when you told me that, I was like, when I scrolled back, I literally took forever for me to scroll back to our first like text message, and I was like, holy shit, it's been a year.
It's been a year. We've been friends for a year.
We've been friends for a year now.
Which, to be fair, this is a perfect book. Well, I don't know about perfect, but the friend aspect of it and finding your person. Yeah.
Yes. So
a lot of anniversaries hit this week
in July.
So yeah.
So thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you in next week for Neon Gods. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.